hit the nail on the head. I mean, we sell over a house a day, and
Yeah.
I would say that I have more um, free time in my schedule that I can really plan around now than I ever had in my business because of the things that you've said.
All right, everybody. We got Ryan Ruehle here. Ryan's a good friend of mine. He's a successful mega agent. He's had just tremendous success in the industry. I want to welcome you, Ryan. Thanks for taking the time to be on, brother.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you having me being here. Yeah, you've been a mentor in my career life for a while now, so I appreciate the opportunity.
You're too kind. Likewise, likewise, for sure. Men sharpen men, right?
Agreed.
So yeah. I wanted to start by kind of giving people a little bit of backstory. What kind of transactions do you do per year? Where are you located? How long you been in the biz?
Yeah, so I'm in Columbus, Ohio. A team currently of 41 agents. Been in the business 22 years now. This year we're on pace. We'll probably do right around 415 transactions, 130 million on pace for.
That, that's beastly.
Yes.
Beastly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been a good
Phenomenal,
first
man.
quarter, and
Congratulations.
yeah, no, it's it's like you said, it's every year sharpening the knife a little bit more, figuring out what works, what doesn't work, and implementing those things, and then tracking everything and staying consistent with the little stuff that works.
Absolutely. I use that old saying, but another translation is, one person sharpens another. I don't want to leave my ladies out there, right? So
For sure.
I kind of stuttered after I said it because it's just so true. I mean, I have a lot of women mentors and people in business together, and so
Agreed.
I remember the old version of the saying when I first learned it. So yeah, smart people sharpen smart people, and that's what this is about. So I wanted to bring people back, and I wanted to talk about really, before you had anything figured out, like in the early days when you were just frustrated, you were trying to figure it out, you probably had some success, but life didn't look like what you wanted. How were things back then? What were some of the things you were doing? And let's talk about what kind of the turning point was.
Yeah, I think if you're in real estate, you understand the frustration because I think everybody goes through it initially, right? The problem with
Right.
our industry is the low barrier of entry, right? It's very easy to get into this industry, but the schooling and a lot of stuff that's out there just I don't want to say isn't very good, but it's not very good. So early on, I felt those frustrations, right? I got licensed, thought people would just walk into our office and want to buy and sell homes, and come to find out that's it's not the way it works, right?
That's not how it goes.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
like,
They teach us the training is to pass the test, not to make any damn money, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it's 100%. One of the big issues our industry is, I don't call myself a salesperson, but it's a sales skilled industry, right? Like it is.
Yes.
You got to be a marketing expert, and you got to know sales, and you got to have those skills. And if you don't have those skills, you got to know where to go and get those skills. And those things, especially when I started 22 years ago, I remember my broker, the first thing he did is he threw me the white pages. If you remember phone books, Mike Oddo?
I have the same story. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
So we both started when we were 12, for the record, 22
exactly.
years ago.
Yeah, I was probably about 9. I was in T-ball. No, I
Yes.
remember because I honestly, and I think part of the problem, right, is sometimes it's not the answers, it's asking the right questions, and I didn't.
Yes.
So I never asked how do you get business, or what do I do once I get licensed, right? I thought this license was this key, right? Like now I have the
Right.
keys, I can just go start the car and I'm good to
Yeah.
go. I didn't understand any of those things. So, I started just because back then I thought the name. So I started with Remax, nothing, great
Yep.
company, loved it. But
Me too.
just didn't know what I didn't know. Right. And I remember, again, I thought people would come into I legitimately, people laugh at me now, but I legit thought that people walked into real estate offices. So I had no
Right.
clue. Right.
They do. It's just like once a year back then.
Uh,
I don't even think they do anymore.
No,
But yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't.
Back then.
I don't think I've ever, like you said, it was there was a few that would trickle back. I don't think I ever had a walk in that turned, at least for me. But anyhow, I remember a conversation with my broker, and that's that I again thought he was joking. He handed me a phone book and he said, "Get to work, son."
Did he give you a script? I can tell you mine.
Now,
Mine was this is Mike Oddo with such and such realty, does are you or do anybody you know looking to buy or sell real estate in the near future? Something to that effect. And it was usually met with a click.
oh,
Hello?
1,000%. And
Hello?
and everybody's got to understand that you're not calling on lead. You're cold calling people that have want nothing to like. Why are you even calling me, right?
Right.
Yeah. So you talk
Yeah.
about, but again, it's think about how further along you got from that. That experience taught me door knocking, right? So starting out, I went door, and I was, it was a consistent pillar of lead gen in my business was door knocking. I did it for
So that
I did it for
miserably
years,
changed.
and I got very successful at door knocking.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if today I would be super comfortable door knocking anymore,
No, I
Too many
wouldn't.
people have guns,
Yeah, yeah. There wasn't the cameras and all the crazy back then, right? People still did come to your house and do that kind of thing. So it wasn't totally. It was a good approach for me because what I had was I had a lot of grit. I had energy. I was young, right? And I would spend if it
Which
was
you
a
yeah.
nice day here in Ohio, I would spend that day because it was free for me to come up. Hey, Mike Oddo, Ryan Ruehle, I'm the neighborhood expert. Would you like some market reports on what's going on in your neighborhood? Most people, yeah, of course, right? Have you thought about maybe selling your home here in the new, next? No. Well,
Yeah.
have you heard of any of your neighbors that might be looking to sell? Right, and that literally was
Yep.
my approach. And some people would slam the door. What's amazing is you start loving the no's because I started doing it so long, getting good at it that I knew a yes was going to come because it always did. And
Yep.
I would get some. The
Yep.
first listing I ever got was from door knocking, and I ended up
Yep.
painting. She's like, "Yeah, come in. We are thinking about it." She entered from that first door knock, introduced me into her house, let me come in. We talked a little bit. I ended up helping her paint her kitchen, so I painted it with her. Can't say it was the
Yeah.
best thing, but she loved the help, and it was the first listing that I ever got. It was free, cost me nothing, had no marketing dollars involved. Um, just went out and picked a neighborhood I wanted and introduced myself.
Well, you know, uh, that takes a special skill set, Ryan. Most people don't have that desire or ability, to be able to go and face that kind of rejection. And again, today I don't think it would be prudent advice necessarily. I don't think it's the worst thing you could do if you got nothing and you're hungry.
Yeah.
But there are better tactics. So like as you were going through that process, when did you start to develop a realization that like, man, there's got to be a better way?
Yeah, coaching. So I've always been very big throughout my life. My parents were very big on schooling and education and all of those things. I come from a sports background, so getting higher levels of coaching and stuff like that was always super important to me. In the summer when other kids were out doing whatever, I was going to sports camps. I was going to other just uh, things that I could do to again sharpen my skills and get better at my sport. So I was always very big into learning, into education, training, teaching, those types of things. So I went out and that's really the thing that changed my career and then started changing the trajectory of my life and a lot of things was
What
masterminds, coaching.
let's dig more into the door knocking real quick because I want to go back to the shift that you had. But when you were door knocking, like what was the spiel that you had? How did you have success in doing that?
Yeah, it was just the neighborhood expert was kind of my angle or my script, if you will, is basically anybody who owns a home in any town USA, right, wants to know what's going on with their neighbors. Everyone, right? You want to know, oh, so and so's sold their house. What'd they sell it for? What did this ended up
Yeah.
happening? So I was that guy that basically I would print out and I'd bring with me. Here's the neighborhood sales. Here's what's active. Here's what's going on. And then I would ask you, hey, Mike, would you like to be added to my monthly newsletter about your neighborhood? And I would say 9 out of 10 people would say yes to that, right? Every now and then you just have that a-hole that said no. But I would
Yeah.
start with that approach, and then the thing I tell anyone: know, like, and trust. Right? I was very good at being
Yep.
able to build some rapport quickly, and if you can build rapport quickly with someone, I might say, "Oh, you got a high state flag? You go to I go to high state. Awesome. Well, you got a motorcycle. I love motorcycles too. I would find just a little because I only got 30 seconds or a minute with you, so I would do that. And
Yeah.
like, have you thought about selling your house in the next 3 to 6 months? Right? And, no,
Yeah.
yeah, we were, whatever, the response as your neighbors, right? Have you heard of it? Because even, 20 years ago, it was a little bit more normal for neighbors to know each other, talk, be out, and have those relationships. And they'd be like, yeah, you know what, so and so down the street here, I think that they said something about possibly, so I would get in some inside information, right? That
Right.
way. And really, that was just my approach, no
That's
hard
awesome.
selling, no, anything. It was just, and I would be, just consistent with the neighborhoods that I wanted. And what was cool is, like I said, again, the times are different, but I would start walking, and eventually people would see me a few times and say hi to me. Hey, Ryan, what's going on? How's the market? They
Yeah.
people would be kind of cool with me. And I just kind of became, that neighborhood dude that came around and gave you market updates. Back then we didn't
That's
have,
amazing.
there was no MLS at that time. There was no, the internet wasn't what it was today, right? None of that stuff was happening at that time.
Yeah, for sure. When you would do this, Ryan, where would you park and like would you drive to different houses? Would you
Yeah, I'd park.
what was the
Yeah, I'd park like the
process?
beginning of the subdivision or something, and then I would have, I would do a lot of homework, right? I did my homework
Yeah.
on knowing, how many houses were in a subdivision, the price point I was looking for. I did a lot of that first, and then, I would just start walking the neighborhood. So I'd park in the beginning, walk it. I'd spend, like I said, for me back then, it was the difference of, do you want to sit in an office for 8 hours and have that job? Or do you want, I would obviously pick a nice day to go out and walk it and do it. And if I get one listing, right, it might, at the time, 5, 6 grand in my pocket for doing that. As opposed, so for me, it wasn't a harsh choice because I couldn't sit in an office every day and have a corporate job. It's just not me. It's not how I'm built. So to be able to go out
Sure.
and do these things wasn't that hard for me to do.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I think it's really interesting. And I think that, a lot of those tactics would still work. If somebody had the desire and the grit.
Sure, there's just better
I
ways.
think
I think it still could work, but I don't
yeah,
think it's the best use of anyone's time.
I agree. I wouldn't necessarily suggest it, but it is. I think the value in the process for me was going through getting the market data, getting to know that specific neighborhood,
Yep.
knowing which homes are sold, knowing which homes are for sale, and just having your finger on the pulse there. Because that awareness makes you a better agent in general. You know what to price homes for. You know what things have sold for. You've been inside them, right? Like the houses, and you can just have a more intelligent conversation.
Yeah,
It took me a while in my career to figure that part out.
for
Like,
sure. Yeah, I
if I
mean,
want to go after something, I gotta know it, right?
yep, you got to do your homework, because I was a big believer in really being what I would kind of tout myself as, hey, I'm your neighborhood expert here. I'm the guy
Yeah,
that wants to get the highest price for your homes, right? I want to push those values because obviously that's going to be good for you. I would tell them at the time I didn't live in these neighborhoods, but I was like, I live in the area, right? I care about your obviously I'm walking these areas because I think that they're very desirable, and I want to niche myself in these. So I would tell them that I'm invested in doing a good job in your neighborhood.
yeah. I love that. When you were doing this and these were your primary drivers of business, what was the catalyst that led you to, look outside of what you were doing? Was it like dissatisfaction? Was it seeing other agents do a lot more business than you? Like, what was the thing that led you to be like, you know what, I'm going to go start researching and digging? Because when the student is ready, the teacher appears, right?
Yeah.
So, like, what were the things that really
I,
kicked that off for
I
you?
love technology changed, right?
Okay.
During that time, there was so much happening in technology and the internet and all of that. And for me, I always say that at the end of the day, like, I'm a hard worker, but I'm really kind of lazy at heart. So if I can find an easier way to do something, I'm going to do that. So I just always
Yeah.
felt like as, technology and, the MLS came around and all of these things were changing, not just in real estate, but everywhere, right? Um,
Yeah.
I felt like there was a way, and I love shiny objects, right? Like I'll go buy, if you dangle something in
Yeah.
front of me, I'm gonna go. So I was always search even now, right? Like it's just my personality and certain people are just kind of built that way. I'm always looking for an easier way for our clients to buy and sell homes and an easier way for us to do business with our clients.
So you're just kind of a seeker of information in
Yeah.
general that would help you. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. A lot of people, like myself included, it came to a head, right? Like I was sick of being sick and tired. I was sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's got to be a better way, right? So everybody has their path to get to that realization, to start to find that information. And I was really curious in yours, but I love that you said that you feel like it's the laziness part that makes you want to look for it easier. Bill Gates says that if you want to get something done, give it to somebody that's lazy, because they're going to get it done very quickly. So they can go back to being lazy. And like, it's not that you're lazy. I know that you're not lazy, even in the slightest. You call me and ride me all the time and tell me I'm lazy, even though I'm working sometimes 60, 70, 80 hours a week.
Yeah.
I'm like, he's right. I could do more.
I think it's
And I always,
like,
huh?
yeah, I always look for, obviously the quickest way anywhere, right? It's a straight line. And I think, to be able to find that, right? No one typically, right? You've never really gotten in your car with the GPS and said, it only takes 10 minutes to get here, but let's pick the route that takes 2 hours, right? That doesn't make any sense. So, just the way that my brain kind of works is I love taking stuff from other industries, trying to implement into real estate. I love
Yeah.
copying, in school.
Yep.
That's kind of frowned upon in business. It's what I've done my whole life, right? Like, shoot, Mike Oddo is doing that.
Successfully.
He's selling a bunch of homes, right? Success leaves clues. And,
Yes.
I would try to find those people just in my market and, just out there in the community of people that are being very successful. And I would try to just really imitate them.
100%. And I think it's brilliant, and it's a genius strategy, because we don't have to make all the mistakes ourselves. There are people who are doing this at a level that we wanted to do.
Yep.
There are people that have done this before us. There are people right now, right, that are doing things that are worth taking inventory of and looking to implement in your business. And that's really why I like to have people like you on here, because I think that exposure to that is the first step in awareness, to be able to say, okay, maybe there's other ways.
Yeah.
So I love the story, and I want you to share the story of when you first, signed up for coaching, and we're going down this path, which has led you to where you are.
Yeah. Again, being just a seeker of just training, education, and I just always felt like you said, there had to be an easier way. The problem I had early in real estate is I knew that I was good at what I was doing, but
Yeah.
if you're a great hitter and you only have one at bat each game, it's kind of tough, right, to get on base a ton, if that
Right.
makes sense. So I didn't have a lot of at bats because I didn't have a lot of clients because I really wasn't efficient at getting clients or knowing, really that part of the sales game, right? If I got you in front
Yeah.
of me and we started doing business, you would know, like, and trust me. You'd refer me, doing all those things. But I didn't know
Yep.
how to get a bunch of at bats. So, my goal was just to try to figure out how to do more production, do it at a higher level. And I found that through some gentlemen who very well, and signed up for coaching. Um, didn't know at the time when I went, so I went to a conference and was pretty broke. I say I have a couple blessings in life, and it's that of being able to build rapport with people pretty well, and my parents always taught me to have good credit. So the thing that saved me at that conference is I was very scared to really sign up for what I knew I needed, but I didn't know how I
Yeah.
was going to pay for it, and I had one credit card left in my arsenal that I could use, and a good friend of mine, just talked to him today, Wally, kind of had a couple of drinks sitting in front of me, and then kind of took my credit card and signed me up. And
Yeah.
and I remember having a conversation with my mom the next day, and I've told this story a few times and telling her what I did, and she was pretty upset. because literally like coaching cost more than what I was paying for rent. You know what I mean?
Right.
As
Yes.
you know that these rooms that we get into are not cheap to get in. And
No.
I knew I needed it in my career. I knew it was the right choice, but I was extremely scared on just that unknown path, right? And I at the time, like I said, I was struggling to pay rent, so I was like, man, I don't know how. But I figured, hey, I put on this credit card. If they let me in the room, I'm gonna figure out. I'm gonna sink or swim, and you know, the rest just turned out to be, you know, really what I believed in, right? If you believe in yourself, you know, and you really know that, you know, I was always the type that, you know, if you and I get on the treadmill together, either you're getting off first or I'm dying, right? One of those two things are happening. Like
That's that sports competitive
you're
nature.
not gonna
Yeah.
beat